RB here, and welcome back to another pub reviews. And in today's review, I'm taking 3 Creepypasta characters and reviewing each of them by designs, origins, and creepypastas and overall character. Today for All Hallows Eve and the seasons of all things spooky, I'll be looking at 3 of the OG pasta boys, and the most popular back then in the creepypasta community's prime, Jeff the Killer, Laughing Jack, and Ben Drowned. That being said, let's begin. Kicking off this review is Jeff the Killer. Anyone who knows me already knows I had a weird, yandere-ish like crush on Jeff back in the day as my life as a sad, lonely, awkward, fucked up teenager. For some reason, my awkward gothic self found guys like Jeff attractive, like in a Harley Quinn ex-Joker type of way, but more gruesome and gory. And I had an undying hatred for Jane the Killer, for obvious and many reasons I don't feel comfortable saying here. I mean, every creepypasta fangirl had a weird crush on Jeff, right? I wasn't the only one. His OG backstory told that he and his family moved into a new town, and the following day he's confronted by a group of bullies along with his brother, Lou. He beats the bullies to a pulp, and Lou later takes fault for Jeff's actions, and is arrested for the assault. Funny enough, Jeff enjoyed beating up those bullies, Randy, Keith, and Troy. And, to be honest, they all deserved it, because they were about to assault them first. Then, on the weekend of a neighborhood kids' party, the bullies crash it, and Randy assaults Jeff to the point where Jeff finally snaps, and ends up murdering Randy. Troy and Keith go on the attack, and Jeff is later burnt via bleach and alcohol with a cigarette lighter Keith had for some reason. Jeff is later taken to the hospital, and the bullies were rightfully arrested. Jeff's bandages are removed a short while later, and he notices his new look in the mirror, with the signature jet black hair and snow white skin, and there, he slowly slips into madness. Upon the night of the return home, Jeff's mom, Margaret, noticed Jeff had burnt off his eyelids and carved a permanent smile into his face. She tries to warn the dad, but Jeff kills them along with his own brother Lou, and utters his signature phrase, "Go to sleep," before killing them all. His backstory did change, with the parents being neglectful to Jeff and Lou, because they wanted one son and one daughter, not 2 sons. And the bullies taking no blame or arrest for the assault of the boys and firing a FLIR gun, and Jeff having a scar on his face. And Lou does survive, because, well, Jeff loves his bro. There's a lot of other stories of Jeff from Mr. Betty Kruger and David Neer, which I'll link in the description if you want to check them out. Be warned though, they're pretty intense. His design is pretty simple, but lost the creepy factor over time. Said to have blackened out linings where his eyelids would be, snow white skin, jet black hair, and a signature carved-in Joker smile. His new design adds on a scar on his face from the flare gun, along with part of his hair gone and being blind in one eye. Unfortunately, there was no real saving on his backstory. The author tried, but it was too little too late, I suppose. I feel like his design could have used some more insight if you ask me. Jeff could have been born with the form of albinism, which is a skin condition where the skin is super pale, and his hair could have been kept as black from either being dyed with that color or having that hair color since birth. Since albinism affects both skin and hair, I would go with the hair dyed part of that design. I would also add in his carved-in smile, either from the bullies attacking him or from the hands of either his mom or dad abusing him. I would keep the design of the scar and one blind eye, because it gives it a more mysterious and dangerous look to his design. As for the backstory, I would have made something like this. His father would have passed away before the birth of Lou somehow, but the death would be a mystery. Randy would have been Jeff or Lou's stepbrother, having the mother marry Randy's dad, with the stepdad neglecting and even emotionally and mentally abusing Jeff and Lou, while favoring his golden child, Randy. The mom would have slipped into a deep state of emotional and mental turmoil after giving birth to a boy instead of a girl, via postpartum depression, and later developing other mental illnesses, such as borderline narcissism for example. Randy and his friends would constantly bully and abuse Jeff and Lou physically, And one day, things got too far, with the boys playing with his stepdad's knife and flare gun collection. Reenacting a scene from The Dark Knight, with the Joker saying, "You wanna know how I got these scars?" And Randy accidentally slicing a smile into Jeff and firing a flare gun upon freaking out. The incident was blamed on Lou, and after returning home, Jeff finally had it with the abuse and torment and treatment of his family, putting the vermin to sleep, as it were, and later burning down the house and sparing Lou in the process, with Lou later finding a newspaper of their father's death, finding out that their stepfather was a murderer all along. Up next, we have Laughing Jack, the Joker of the Creepypasta world. His origin story begins with him as a gift from an angel to a boy named Isaac Grossman, a boy from an abused household and a broken home. Laughing Jack is pretty much his only friend and best guardian angel. But there's a catch. He can mold into Isaac's personality. After a gruesome incident involving a game of pirates and a cat, Isaac is then sent to either a military school or a boarding school for boys, but both promise to return, with Isaac returning as soon as he can, and LG promising to wait right there for him. Some years later, Isaac does return, but with a darker personality and mindset, due to all the years of abuse and torture. He's known to murder anyone and everyone. For some reason, I think the story wants us to believe that he's Jack the Ripper or something. Speaking of Jacks, LG witnesses all those horrifying events and is shocked at first, but later enjoys witnessing the game Isaac plays with his victims. When he later notices the old Laughing Jack in the box, he opens it to reveal the now evil and demonic LJ, with old Jack's once colorful and joyous look having been turned darker, with blacks and whites on his design and a more demonic appearance. Jack later does the same with Isaac, as he did with his victims, playing a very gruesome game with him. Years later, Jack does the same routine of befriending children he finds, tricking them into being his friend, and later murdering them, and either the parents are blamed for it or are killed off as well, even tormenting his victims with the song "Pop Goes the Weasel" being played whenever he's around. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Now, I do want to say that over the years of listening and reading these LJ stories, I've actually grown quite fond of LJ and his entire story. The OG author and creator, Snuff Bomb, did a fantastic job with this creepypasta. Yeah, his design isn't something new or unique as it once was, but it takes inspiration from other horror clowns and killer clowns, like the Joker and Pennywise, for example. Yes, I know Joker isn't horror related, but it still counts. So his design is just right the way it is, and his origin story is very interesting, starting out as a gift from heaven, supposedly, only to turn demonic as Isaac got older and became a murderer himself. So nothing really to change here with Jack's story or his design. It's perfect just the way it is. Finally, let's take a look at Ben Drowned. Ben Drowned was that creepy Link statue from the game Majora's Mask, and said game inspired this creepypasta and its character. Ben's origins are unknown, though the writer of the pasta is said that he drowned somehow after buying a copy of Majora's Mask at a yard sale, only for the game to be glitchy and hold a darker origin. The writer starts investigating the origins of Ben and the haunted copy of Majora, and everything involving the mystery itself. For one, there's no real origin story to Ben, let alone a good one for that matter. So, for Ben's updated origin story, I would have made his story like this before the events of the original pasta. Ben would have been a regular kid obsessed with video games like Pokemon, Mario, Kirby, anything from Nintendo to Sega, to games like Crash and Spyro, to even Majora's Mask. Upon hearing of Majora's release, he would have begged and pleaded with his parents to get him the game. Then, on his birthday, he received it and would spend hours playing it. Aside from being a gaming addict from childhood, he was your average kid who did what his parents told him, went to school, did his homework, watched TV when he wasn't playing games, enjoyed hanging out with his friends outside of school and his hobbies, just overall a good kid. He pretty much had a good family and a good home life. Except for one thing. Ben had an abusive older brother, Greg. Greg was the complete opposite of Ben. Granted, he was born during a time where their father was an alcoholic and their mother was a drug addict and had to constantly go to rehab just to get as clean as possible. Then, when Greg was 5 years old, thinking he had a perfect life, Ben came along and ruined everything for Greg. His parents seemingly favored Ben over Greg, and Greg joined a bad crowd of people in and outside of school, skipping classes, smoking, drinking, doing drugs, partying, and overall bad and rebellious things most kids do at Greg's age, when they think they're unstoppable. Then, Greg finally snapped one day after Ben came home from school, the day after his birthday, to get started on his game. His mom was looking at them and watching Ben play Majora's Mask, and with their youngest son being a gaming addict, and a highly skilled and intelligent one at that, Ben was said to have finished the game within 2.5 hours, with all the side quests completed, all the masks collected, all levels and bosses defeated within the 72-hour time span of the game, and having finally won the game with only 3 hours left to spare upon defeating Majora, and with no mistakes, cheats, or any type of help whatsoever, after reading the guide that came along with the game for hours and hours on end. Greg's mind finally broke as their mom praised Ben throughout the afternoon, only to later ask Greg to not only complete his chores and homework, but also look after Ben while she had to run an errand for the next hour or so. Upon leaving, Greg saw his opportunity to get rid of Ben once and for all, convincing him to play in the wooded area, with a lake near their home. Ben refused at first, but was soon forced by Greg, being dragged to the lake, and later pushed in and forcefully held down underwater, drowning as a cause of death. His mother returned home an hour later, with Greg putting up his best acting chops, saying Ben ran out to play near the lake and slipped and drowned. The mom was in hysterics upon finding Ben, face down in the water, and their father returned home minutes after leaving work. He too was shocked and devastated by Ben's sudden death. The next few weeks, Ben's funeral came and went. Greg finally got his parents back all to himself, as well as Ben's things. The first thing he did was play Majora's Mask, claiming he was better than Ben at everything, including video games. The game opened to the Happy Mask salesman, uttering the words, "You shouldn't have done that." Greg, thinking the game, along with the N64, was glitching, decided to turn it off and on again, hoping to fix the problem. The salesman appeared again, but with that creepy Ben statue on his right, and the Skull Kid wearing Majora's Mask on his left. Greg finally gave up, thinking the game was busted, and, before turning it off, text appeared on the screen saying, "You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you?" Suddenly, the screen turned to static with an image of Ben, now a corpse version of Link from the Zelda games, screaming at his face. Greg screamed, and his parents ran in to check on him. They noticed Greg saying things like, "I'm sorry," and "I didn't do it," repeatedly. The father, boldly confronting their son, asking him what was going on, and what really happened to Ben. Greg finally confessed, and as a result, the father blamed Greg for everything that went wrong since Ben died, even calling him crazy for saying Ben's ghost was in the game. The mom is yelling and screaming at him that he took her baby away, and now she's lost another child. The police were called, and Greg was sentenced to life in a psychiatric ward, without parole or visitation from his mother and father, or anyone in his family or friend group. Years passed, the parents got a divorce, not being able to deal with the guilt and grief of having the entire family they made gone and wrecked due to what Greg had done. The father kept the game in his son's memory, in possession, and as he got older, he began to believe that Ben's spirit truly was in the game, but never truly got a chance to play it, later having a yard sale, and sold the game to the original creator of the story, and either moving to another part of the world, or mysteriously passing away somehow. So that will be the dark origins of Ben. But as for the design, I would change a small handful of things about it. I'll keep the idea of him being Link in mind, as well as his eyes leaking this blackish, water-like substance to give him a more demonic appearance. But instead of giving him his red eyes, I'll keep his eyes completely blackened out, similar to Eyeless Jack, only to reveal the red eyes whenever he's emotional, like when he's angry or in a fight. And he has been drowned after all, so I'll give it a more drowned-like appearance to his body, like that of a drowned body. I was going to give him a fish-like appearance, but then I thought it'd look weird on his design, and he'd be more of a missing link?
Boo! You stink!
Okay, I'll see myself out now. I also wanted to give him a more corpse-like appearance, similar to Dead Hand from Ocarina of Time, but not messed up, if you know what I mean. Other than that, his design and original Creepypasta are actually pretty creative, and left up to the imagination of whether he's a demonic version of Link, or just this weird ghost Ben statue in the game. Alrighty, that was the review and change up for the pasta characters I could do. If you want to see more reviews like these, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one, pups. Cue the outro, RP is out, sweet dreams.